I built an automated review management system using Make and AI to help a service business stay on top of them and save time. In this video, I'll show you how, step by step. If you're running any kind of service business, you live and die by customer reviews. You need a high average rating. You need to reply to reviews thoughtfully and as quickly as possible. You need to keep those reviews coming in all the time. And you want to stay on top of any complaints expressed in those reviews. Now, when I was running my scuba diving tour business, I was doing all this manually. And the truth is, I'd slip from time to time. I'd forget to reply. I would not be as diligent in collecting those reviews as much as I could have. And the whole process was just one more thing that was taking time and energy. So let's dig in to how we can automate this and make it easier. The first part will be collecting more reviews. Now, the issue is unhappy customers are always louder than happy customers, which means that somebody who wasn't happy with your service is much more likely to leave a negative review than someone who was happy is to leave a positive review. The best you can do as a business is to ask your happy customers for reviews. Now, the best time to do this generally is after you've just provided the service and they're happy with it, but it does depend on the type of your business. So for example, if you're a hairdresser, after you've finished your service, maybe they're on their way, they don't have time to leave a review. For us, we had this like 4-hour trip back from the ocean. They're high on the experience and everything, and that was a great time to ask them for reviews. But even then, no signal or whatever, and there's no reason to not send a review reminder digitally. It just helps you get more of these reviews. So the first automation is going to be just that. So the first thing we need is a way to know when a booking has been completed. Now, depending on your business, you may have different software you use for this. You might use a booking software. You might just use Google or Trello or whatever. In this case, I used AirTable just because it's simple to set up and it's easy to show what's happening. But obviously, you would want to connect it to whatever you are using. And if you're still using pen and paper, please digitize before automating anything. So in Airtable, I've created this table with bookings. So we've just got a simple 3 status table, 1 column for upcoming bookings, for completed and canceled bookings. So the idea is somebody makes a booking, you create one of these, there's a name, there's the email. I just put in my email so I can get that email to show you. And we specify what time they're booking, and they're in the upcoming booking. Then once they have dined with us, we would move this card into completed. And if they cancel the booking, we would move it into canceled. Now, inside of Make, we just want to know when a booking has been moved into the completed column. So basically, we're watching the records. We care about the last updated because this is a field that gets changed every single time anything changes in a record. So last updated is always going to change. So when we move the record from one column to another, this is going to change and trigger this. And then we have a formula here which says we want to make sure that status is completed. So if the status is not completed, it means something else has changed in the card. We don't care. But if it's completed, then we move on to the next step. So the next step here is a router, and that is simply because I was experimenting with this, and you might want to send the review reminder on multiple channels. So in this case, I'm sending it to the email because that's easiest to show. But if you have their phone number, for example, you might also want to send an SMS. You might even want to send them a direct message on social media, or depending on what kind of contact information you've got. So in this case, I'm just filtering to make sure that the email does exist, that we've recorded it in Airtable, and then I'm going to send them an email. Now, the email is pretty simple. We just pick up the email field from the record in Airtable. We thank them for dining with us, and then, we'll be grateful for their support, and we'd love to hear about your visit and so on. And then, we tell them their feedback matters. And the really important thing here is to just give them a URL where they can leave the review in as few clicks as possible. In this case, I'm not the owner of this restaurant, so I'm not able to give them or create a link to directly leave a review. So I've just put in a link to the place itself. But if you are the owner of any business, in Google My Business, you'll have this button that says Ask for Reviews, and it will give you a link, which when you send this to customers, it takes them to a page where they can directly write a review. So that's the link you would include here. And we also ask them if there's anything that did not meet their expectations, let us know. And we're kind of like hoping that if there's any complaints, they're going to get back directly to us and not leave a review without explicitly saying that. So that's the automation that keeps track of these bookings. And if I take a booking and I move, let's say, Mary into completed, actually, that's going to be the wrong email. Let's do this one. So if I move that here, and I run this, I should be able to get that email. So the email is being sent. Normally this runs automatically. I just ran it manually so that we get that email. Now in here, we've got the thank you message, and it's asking us to leave a review. So obviously, as we go to your customer, I just put in my email here to be able to show you guys. Okay, so that's the first automation, a very simple one, and it should really help a lot. It did help me a lot to have something like this to get more reviews coming in. Now, this is really important for your Google ranking, because if you got old reviews only, if they're not coming in frequently, and especially if your last review is, say, from 3 months, 6 months ago, whatever it is, it really affects your rating in Google My Business. So you really want to keep these fresh reviews coming in. It also helps with customers, because when you see a service business that's got 1,000 reviews versus one that's got 50, it just gives you a lot more confidence, especially if the rating is good. Okay, so the next part is going to be collecting all these reviews. Here I've implemented Google and TripAdvisor. That's something that would be quite popular for a tour business. If you're a restaurant, might actually be more like Yelp or something like that. Also depends on where you live or where the business is. But the principle would be the same. We just want to take all of these reviews, we want to put them in one place to make it easier to manage. So the first thing I did here is I created a reviews table, which is going to store all of our reviews. So here we need the customer name, rating they left, where the review is coming from. So in our case, that's going to be Google or TripAdvisor. This is a field I've put in just for whoever is managing this to be able to mark it as, we have replied to this review or not. And then we've got the text of the review, when it was created, direct link to it, which I'll show why that's useful later. Reply also show why that's useful later. And then review ID, again, something that we are going to use to be able to identify this review to avoid having duplicates. Now in Make, we've got 2 automations to fetch these reviews. You would have different automations depending on where your reviews are stored. So for me, I've got TripAdvisor and I've got Google reviews. They're pretty much exactly the same. They just use a different scraper. So in both cases, we use Apify. Now, if you're not familiar with Apify, Apify is a SaaS application for scraping websites. I will not get into too much detail about how to use it here, but it is pretty straightforward. So they've got a library of these different scrapers. They call them actors. For any even, mildly popular website, you can probably find an actor that can scrape it. So in our case, we have the TripAdvisor scraper and Google Maps reviews scraper. And the way they work is you need to send them a configuration. So that would be, for Google, for example, that would be the link to the place on Google Maps, and some other parameters. You need to send a JSON, so you can just copy this JSON from here. So in our case, it's max reviews. We want to review by sort by newest reviews, and then we give the URL. And so inside here, that's the configuration I've got for this actor. So basically, I'm saying run this actor. This is the configuration, and then once that runs, the way Apify works is because scraping can take a little bit of time, it doesn't return the whole data. Instead, it runs and then it tells you what the dataset ID is. So dataset ID is like a reference in its database where it stored the results, and then you need to fetch it. So that's what the second node is for. So we get the dataset items. We just take that dataset ID that we got from running the actor, and we just format it as JSON, and that's the data we get. Now, If you were scraping something more, like if you were scraping 100 reviews, or if you were scraping something more computationally intense, you might want to do it differently, where you would schedule the runs inside of Apify and then just watch for those runs instead of make. In this case, this runs quickly enough that you can just run this all in sequence. I have not scheduled it because this is a demo, but normally you would schedule this then to happen every, maybe 4 hours, 6 hours, depending on how often you get reviews. But because you want to stay on top of them and reply quickly, you don't want this to run too infrequently. So once we've got the reviews, we're just going to put them inside of the Airtable. So inside of the reviews table in our database. Now, fields to merge on is just a way to avoid duplicating rows. So basically, if we run this multiple times, we will keep getting these same last 5 reviews or however many we're getting. And so to avoid just adding more and more on top of each other, which are the same, we use review ID, which is a unique identifier for any particular review, to make sure there's no duplicates. So basically, when new reviews come in from here, it will try to insert them into this database. But if it already finds a row with this review ID, it will skip it. So, and then after that, we just map the fields. So name, rating. The source is always going to be Google because this is Google Scraper. We don't touch the replied field, and then we just do the rest of it. So with this, if I run this now, we should see some of these rows show up in Airtable. So it takes a few seconds to scrape these reviews. And we can see that 5 of them, because that's how many we're getting, have been inserted into Airtable. Now in Airtable, we see these 5 reviews. So they're all coming from Google. This is the star rating, and these are the text. So the last 3 actually don't have any text. They were just star ratings, and these other 2 do have text. So that's how we collect the ratings from Google. Now we do exactly the same thing from TripAdvisor. It's just a different scraper, different actor. So the configuration is very similar. It's just slightly different JSON. I also copied that directly from Apify. So it's just a different actor. And the configuration is here. It's just slightly different. That's all. But we need to find the URL to the business that we're scraping. And then we put that in here. Once we've got that, we're going to fetch the data set and then insert it into Airtable. So exactly the same. So I'm going to run this to get the reviews from TripAdvisor. And now that's done, we also see 5 reviews have been inserted. So back in the table, now we've got the 5 reviews from TripAdvisor. And here we've got actually 2 that are 1-star reviews, which are going to be helpful to show what we're going to be doing next. So once we have collected all these reviews, the next thing we need to do is, 1, we need to notify the owner, manager, whoever that the reviews are in, that they need to be replied to. But this is the part that we can automate and help with, which is we can use AI to generate replies to these reviews. So for me personally, when I was writing this, it was always something that would take a lot of time. It was just like mentally, difficult. We would have to read the review, try to reply, thoughtfully, try to see like what the customer wrote in the review. So having AI do that and make it look like, it's actually personalized is very helpful. What a lot of business owners do is they will just write thank you or, something along those lines. And that's fine, but it's much nicer if you actually refer to whatever the customer said. So that's what we're doing in this next automation. Here, we are creating the review replies. So first, we're watching for any new reviews that show up in the Airtable table. So we're watching this reviews table. The trigger field is created at, so that's simply the only one we care about, because when this is only modified when a new record is created. So when a new review is inserted into the table, we are going to trigger this action. Now, the formula here is a filter where I'm saying we don't care about the records that have been replied to. So not replied needs to be true. And this is simply, if we want to rerun this for all the records that are already in the table, I just wanted to skip the ones that potentially have been replied to. With this, we go to AI. So here I go with Claude simply because I prefer the way it writes. But this is pretty simple task we're asking it to do, so we can use the simple model Haiku, which is a lot cheaper than the Sonnet. So the prompt is also pretty simple. Of course, this is something you can modify depending on what you want from the reviews. You want to make it sound more like yourself or more like how your business wants to communicate with your customers. This is how I would write it. So we say a customer name has left us a review. Rating they left is X out of 5. This is important to note because AI might not know that the rating is, out of 5. And then we say, be concise, be courteous, always thank them for their honest review, acknowledge any complaints, express regret for bad experience. And also, if there was anything that sounds like it was under our control, we want to apologize, we want to take full accountability. And then when we have reviews, sometimes people will leave like a 4-star review and they will just say everything was great, or they will not say anything, or even a 3-star review. And in that case, we want to ask them to get in touch so we can correct things, because sometimes people think, oh, well, 4 stars is great, but in today's world, anything less than 5 stars is just considered bad. For completely positive reviews, we don't want to write too much. We want to be shorter and just simply thank them. And then this is the key thing, at least for me. If there is anything from the review that you can include in the reply, do so. So for example, if they say they loved something, we refer back to them and say, we're delighted you loved it, because then that makes it more personalized reply and not just like thanks for sharing, And then we sign the email. So depending on who's actually replying, who's doing this, but in this case, that's the chef of this particular restaurant. And then I give it the email because up here I said, tell them to get in touch if there's anything we need to, make right. And then if there's no review text, because some reviews will have no text, we just thank them for the review, unless it's less than 5 stars, in which case we also tell them to get in touch to see if we can make things right. And then we give the AI the review text. And from there, we will put that into the Airtable. And if you remember, there was this reply column, and that's what we put in there. So we basically give the manager the reply so they can copy and paste that, or at least use that as some kind of base if they want to modify it. And then we'll also send them an email saying that a new review has been created. This is the text. This is the suggested reply from AI, and this is the link to review. So that's why that link is important, because then the email literally can be you click the link, paste the response, and you're done. And if I run this, I should be getting about 10 emails because that's how many rows are in the table. So this is going to take a few minutes, and I'll be back. Okay, so this has finished running. We can see that 10 emails have been sent. My email, I can see all of these. So for example, in this one, it says there's no review text. So that was one of those just star reviews. And it was a more like a generic reply then. Thank you so much for taking the time to leave us a review. Truly appreciate your feedback and so on. But then if we look at one, for example, this one that does have some text, and we also thank them. We're delighted you enjoyed our restaurant. So we refer back to, she says cozy spot. We thank them for enjoying our cozy restaurant and so on. So like each of these is going to be a lot more, personable and just sound nicer than if we just said, thank you. And then these are the difficult ones. So if you have a 1-star review, like you really need to take care in how you're replying to this. So this one says, Dear Jordan, thank you for taking the time to share feedback. We're deeply sorry to hear about your disappointing experience with us, particularly regarding the sake pricing. We take full accountability for not clearly communicating the cost of the recommended bottle and understand how this could feel like an unexpected and unfair situation. Would appreciate the opportunity to discuss this further and make things right. please contact us. And it uses the email I gave it to speak with our management team. We strive to provide transparent and fair service, and we clearly fell short in this instance. We appreciate your honest review and the chance to improve. Taking accountability for something like this, I think, is really important. And then obviously, you have full control of this. So this is not automatically posted. So you would read this, and, if you don't agree with this, if you want to, word it differently, you can, but at least it gives you a starting point. So you don't have to think about how you're going to apologize to the customer. So I think that really helps. Replying to reviews does a few things. So the first thing is it helps your Google ranking because it shows Google that you're active. And it also shows customers you care. It motivates them to leave a review as well. So if you tell them, we really care about your review, it means a lot to us, and then you've got one review after another, there's no reply, that doesn't really show that you care. But if you see replies, and they're thoughtful replies, and they're timely replies to every single review, that shows customers that you actually do care about those reviews, makes it more likely for somebody else to put in the effort and leave a review and write something there, and instead of just like leaving a star review. And then there's another way we can step this up by using AI to really help us stay on top of these reviews. If we, through the course of a month, you might be getting, I don't know, a handful or a few dozen reviews. It's really hard to remember everything. So who said what the complaints were, what's the overall sentiment of the reviews? If you have hundreds or even thousands of reviews, it will take a while before your average review rating changes, because 10 reviews to 1,000 cannot really move the needle so much. But keeping track on what the sentiment is lately can be quite useful. And so for that, we have another automation. So this one is for analyzing reviews. So the way this one works is we just fetch the records, so the reviews from the table. We get them as, sort them by the latest. And we don't care about all the fields, we just care about the rating, the text. And here I am taking the reviews that have been added in the last 60 days. Now, depending on how many reviews you're getting and how frequently, you might want to do this every 7 days, you might do it every 14, or whatever it is. This restaurant doesn't get reviews all that often, so just to keep it a little bit more interesting, I set this to 60 days so that we are actually processing the sentiment in a little bit more than just a couple of reviews. So with that, we put this into an array aggregator, and the reason we need to do this is because this would get us the records one by one. So this will just make that, collect them all, and then output one object. So it's just going to be an array. And then we transform that array into a JSON object so that we can use that with AI. So again, I'm sending this to Claude, and I have a pretty simple prompt here where we say there's a list of reviews of our restaurant received in the past month. Actually, I should say two months. Each review has a rating out of 5 and may or may not have text. So analyze the reviews, output a very short 1 to 2 line summary of the user's experience with our menu, and then further list any complaints in a concise, clear way so the restaurant owner can get an overview of what customers complain about. So what I'm trying to do here is get a general summary, and then specifically I want to call out any specific complaints. So if they say they didn't like this or that, I want to keep that top of mind. And then these are the reviews, so I give it the JSON string. With that, we're gonna put that into AirTable. I create another table called review analysis. So the idea there is that you would have a track of these. So basically every 7 days, 14 days, however often you do it, like you would get this populated, and then you could go back and see how the sentiment and complaints have changed over time. But also, so that this doesn't just get buried in a table, we also send an email. So same thing as before, send an email saying, here's the review summary, just include a response, and that is that's about it. So if I run this, it will take a few seconds to summarize everything, and then we should see that analysis in both in Airtable and then in our email. So if I look at Airtable, it should show up here in a second. So here we are. So we've got the date, and then it says Raku appears to be highly rated Japanese restaurant with excellent udon, diverse menu options, generally good at service. There is one significant customer service issue related to sake pricing. And then the complaints are specific, so extremely high-priced sake recommendation without prior warning, delivery issue, and then it goes over some positive highlights so we know what people are liking. And then it got a ratings breakdown. I didn't specifically ask for this, so if you wanted something like this, you might tell it to actually give you this overview every time, because this way it might not be here every time. And then, it gives you potential areas for improvement, transparency in menu pricing, delivery service, and so on. So this will also come in as an email, and that will really help us stay on top of the complaints and what people are liking and not liking. So that's it. I hope it helps. Please like and subscribe. And if you want to talk about your specific business needs, feel free to get in touch.